I'm going to wait till everybody's here. Damn. Shit. I left the switch on my in-ear monitors, so they won't work. Maybe they will. Let's see. No, we'll give them a minute.
Batteries?
Yeah, I left it on so it didn't get charged. Weird. Should I turn it off? So, good morning. It's very rare that it actually is morning when I say that. So, I want you to do me a favor, if you don't mind. Today, we have to leave pretty quickly after the program because we have to visit somebody in Delaware who's very ill. So we kind of have to leave ASAP. So that'll mean no more pictures, no more hugs. Okay? Huh?
Telepathically, okay.
So what's that?
Telepathically.
Oh yeah, telepathically. Yeah. Always hugs there. Yeah. Ah, look who's here. Hey. Good to see you. Hi. Oh, hi. Old friends. Either that or we could just end the program now and just have hugs and stuff. Yeah. Okay, let's see what happens here. It's funny, even if it was plugged in. Ah? How about, we don't have another monitor, do we? Are you a monitor? You can lie down right here and the sound can come out of your head. Okay, no, that's okay, thank you. Maybe we can just do it without it. I can hear, kind of.
He can have my monitor.
Can we use this?
Oh, there's one back there, huh?
There's a wedge right there.
Well, I'll do some sit-down comedy.
He's got a wedge.
The only reason I'm able to chant with you and do this at all is because of some horny Kirtanwala. Back in 1972, one of the Bengali Kirtanwalas tried to seduce one of the Western women there at the temple. And so in about a minute and a half, all 20 of these guys were loaded on the back of a truck, and Maharaj had them sent back home to Vrindavan. And one of the Indian people said, "Baba, you just kicked out the Kirtanwalas. Who's going to sing now?" Guess. So we had to sit in this room around the corner from where Maharaji would come out. So it was like eternal damnation. We could never see him because we only had one command: sing. There was no clue about when we could stop. Can you think, imagine, you wake up in the morning and somebody says, okay, start singing. But how long? No answer. So mostly it was me and this incredibly wild, amazing Greek goddess named Draupadi. She had been the mistress to the Prince of Spain. And when he had to get married and get in the line of succession, he gave her, I can talk about her because she just died. Too bad. So he gave her 100 grand in the 50s. That's like $10 million, right? So she never worked a day in her life and just was one of the most generous people you could imagine. Even today, there's a fund going on in Vrindavan where not only widows, but they're also feeding the cows in Vrindavan. There's these called goshalas, these places where the cows are taken care of. So that's going on with her donations still. And the widows too. In India, many times old people will just kind of quietly disappear from the home because they can't work anymore. And so they feel like they're a burden on the family because food is there's not a lot of food. And so in order to make it easier on the family, they'll just kind of slip away. And many times they go to one of the holy places like Vrindavan or Benares or down south. There's other places where there are big dharmsalas, which are like big boarding houses where they can live for free. And they sing all day long. They chant and sing, and they're fed by donation and everything. And they just sing until they're not there anymore. It's quite amazing. And many of them, in Maharaj's temple in Vrindavan, he had the widows come and sing in the evening usually. And it was very interesting to hear them sing because they don't have anything else to do. So they're not in a hurry. They're not trying to get off and then get home to watch TV. They're just singing, and they're very present. It's quite extraordinary to sing with them. One time I was on the roof with this young Bengali guy. He was a great drummer, really good drummer. And he was asking me about my life. He said, are you married? And I said, yeah, thinking about the divorce that was coming up. He said, you have kids? And I said, yeah, thinking about what they were going to go through. And every time I would go, yeah, he would go, oh, wow. I said, you have a house? I said, yeah. He goes, oh. And he's happy, and I'm thinking about the mortgage, Everything I had, he wanted, right? But the thing was, he was never going to get those things. Not this life. Very interesting. I looked at him and I said, all right, you're crazy. Well, all you have to do is wake up in the morning and sing Hare Krishna. He's like, you don't have to worry about anything. What's wrong with you? And he looked at me like I was crazy, and I looked at him like he was crazy. But who knows where he is now? But what am I doing? I wake up in the morning and sing Hare Krishna. I don't have to worry about shit. Strange life. These practices ripen us. We don't have to learn anything. I'm sorry. But you don't have to learn anything. You just have to do some practice because this ripens us from within. and it brings to us all the things we need in our lives. Like I told you that yesterday about that shloka about Hanuman. He gives liberation by allowing us to merge into his state of consciousness, and as well as providing the opportunity to satisfy the desires that need to be satisfied. Maharaj used to say, you can't talk to a hungry person about God. Feed him first. If we have unsatisfied longings, we can't pay attention to other things. That's what we're thinking about. You can try to override it in your mind, but it won't work. It's good, I hear. I don't know. Harmonium two's there, everything's there. Maharaj was married. He had 3 children. We didn't know that until later. Very few people knew that, actually, just some of his very close people. And when he left the body, and we all got on a plane and flew to India, we were in Vrindavan, somebody pointed to this car and said, see that guy sitting there, that's Maharaj's son. I said, what? So I went over to him and I said, and he said, oh, no. You people are his real children. We didn't know anything. They didn't know he was a big Baba. He was very unusual. He had all kinds of side hustles going on. There's a temple in a place called Dwarka, which is where Krishna's kingdom was. And one time they were on, Maharaj was on pilgrimage with some of the devotees. And as they entered the temple in Dwarka, the chokidar, the guard, pranamed to Maharaj. He went like this. And then, so one of the devotees comes out of the temple and says to the guard, I noticed you pranam to that gentleman with the blanket. Do you know him? And he said, oh yes, that's Kambalwala Baba, Blanket Baba. He comes every day for darshan of the temple. Should I tell you the story again? Yes. Yeah. Every day. The chokidar said that Maharaj came to the temple every day for darshan. Hello. He lived in North India. He didn't live there. And then Maharaj used to tell stories to Siddhiman and the people that, oh, there's a Baba who lives in that place. He's a very good Baba. He feeds people. He's a very good Baba. And then, oh, there's another Baba and he lives over there. He's a good Baba too. So after Maharaj left the body, Siddhima and others took pilgrimage to meet these Babas that Maharaj used to talk about. One of them was called Kilawala Baba, Fort Baba. He lived in an old abandoned fort. And on Tuesdays, somehow or other, he fed like the whole town would come for a meal. Nobody knew where he got the food or anything like that. So Siddhima and others get to this place and they ask about him. They said, oh, he's just left the body. Oh, and they describe Maharaji to a T. And then they go to the other place, same thing. Oh, that Baba, he just left the body. And they describe Maharaji to a T. So at least he was living in 3 places at the same time. And there's probably like 100 others that we don't know about. That story I told you yesterday about the train, was it yesterday? About the Baba who disappeared when he stepped off the train? 2 days ago, thank you. Somebody has a brain. Get rid of it. Siddhima said that happened every time they took the train to Chennai from Delhi. That Baba would get on at one particular station and then get off at the next station. Every time. you know, our minds cannot even begin to grok what's really going on in this world, in any world. It's just too far out. And the one thing to remember, all these beings, these really truly great beings, they only have one reason that they're here at all, and that is to help us. They have no personal agenda. They've been there, done that. And so the only reason we know about them, the only reason they're in a body at all, is out of compassion and kindness for us. Was that a sneeze? Very good. One of these days you're going to blow your brains right out of your ears trying to do that. Yeah, compassion. We're suffering. We don't know what's going on. And the beings that know what's going on, the only reason they stay here is out of love for us. Because it's not us and them. For them, there's just us. There's one of us. We're part of one body, so that's why they're here. All these people on the pictures on the wall are actually beings who care about us. And when we think of them, they're here. Okay, let's see if this works. Krishnas, you do the Rams. Voice up. What'd you say? Turn the monitor up. Let's start again. What do you want me to do?
You have the mixer.
I have control.
The mixer.
My mixer. What do you know about that? Somebody gave me control. That reminds me. One time I was taking an acid trip. Long trip. When I had scored, a friend of mine from high school went to the same college as me, and he wound up buying a huge amount of LSD. It was still legal. That's how long ago it was. It was the original Sandoz acid. Sandoz is the company that discovered acid. And so I scored 10 hits from him in 1966. When I met him again at the 50th high school reunion, I went up and I said, "Hey man, It's great to see you. Remember that acid I scored from you? Yeah. You know, I took the first hit. I was in school. I was playing basketball. I had a job. By the 10th hit, I was halfway to India. And he looked at me and said the best line you'll ever hear in your life. He said, "Really? I took 1,000 hits and I never got off of Long Island." True story. He's still on Long Island. And there's his brother-in-law right there, I can attest. So I took this, I'll tell you two stories from the old acid days. The one I remembered at that second was I was writhing around and I wasn't comfortable. I was just like, you know, like this. And my friend who I shared the house with, who was like who introduced me to spiritual stuff, he peeked his head in the door and he just said, "The illusion of comfort." And I went, ah. It totally relaxed me. Another thing that happened, which is very far out. Besides the thing when the basketball team arrived at the door first thing in the morning, I was supposed to catch the bus to a game, but I'd been up for 2 days on acid, and I completely forgot. So there's a knock on the door, and I go, there's the team bus parked outside, and the coach is saying, "Well, you know, you come on, we got to get on the bus." I go, I ran up and got dressed, and he sat with his arm around me the whole way to the game, you know. It's okay, son, it's okay. So I was lying in bed, and I'd been up for a couple of days, because I used to take 1,000 micrograms of Sandoz acid. It's enough acid to put a horse on the moon. Because I knew I had to get through my stuff. I needed enough propulsion to get past me into whatever. So I'd been up for like a couple of days and a half, and I'm lying in bed, just kind of gazing out the window. And I'm looking out the window, and something's coming. Something's coming towards me. What is it? I'm like, what could this be? Oh no, it's a thought. And then I was thinking. And then it was leaving. I was going, no, don't go, don't. Ah. And then another one started coming. And they started coming faster and faster, and finally I was back. I was me again. Me is just thoughts. Look for me sometime. You can't find it. There's not a thing called me. It's just thoughts. And we're glued to them. So practice thins out that glue. The definition of insanity is that you believe everything you think, which we do. That's why we are insane. Me is insane. Everything you believe about yourself is not true. Even the stuff that hurts, the history that you can write down and we believe it actually happened, yeah. But that's not who we are. Those are just thoughts, and thoughts are external to our true nature. What is not external is the name. The name comes from within. These are revealed sounds. They were brought into this world by a being who realized what it is, who embodies what it is. They're not made up. They're revealed. And so through the repetition of the name, everything is accomplished. do the Krishnas, you do the Rams. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So we sing, and when we notice we haven't been paying attention, we sing. We don't have to bend ourselves in any particular shape. We don't have to try to have any particular kind of experience. We don't have to aim at anything. We don't have to visualize anything. Just recognize that you've been gone, and actually you're already back. Or you wouldn't know you were gone. That's a very big moment. And how did that moment happen? We were gone. So we didn't do that. Right? But it happened. And we know that nothing can happen without a cause. If you plant a seed for an oak tree, you're not going to get a banana tree. You're going to get an oak tree. So if you woke up, it means you planted the seed of waking up at some point, somewhere, or it could not happen. So we want to keep planting those seeds. And every time we come back, we're planting another seed of waking up. I once asked Siddhi Ma, I said, Ma, should I meditate? Or should I sing? She said, well, what do you like to do? Duh. Which was different from what my mother told me on Long Island. Don't do what you like. Do what I tell you. But the real Ma says, do what you like. It never occurred to me that doing what I like could actually be good for me. Except too much sugar. And then she said, Krishnadas, in 40 years with Maharaji, not once did he ask me to meditate. He said, do your japa, repetition of the name, and serve people. And he said, she said that he said that the higher, the more subtle, deeper states of consciousness cannot be brought about by the use of the personal will. We can't, there's no button to push, because it's the one who wants to push the button that has to go. And asking the mind or the ego to kill or remove the mind or ego is like asking the thief to be the policeman. There will be a lot of investigation, but no arrest will ever be made. So remember that. You are not going to become enlightened. That's not going to happen. You are eventually going to not be you, and that will be enlightened. The ego doesn't get enlightened. It gets rinsed away. Slowly. Very slowly. But definitely. And so when we do these practices, we really shouldn't do them with an aggressive ambition. I'm gonna meditate myself into enlightenment. Yeah, it'll be a padded room before that. We asked Maharaji, Baba, how do we find God? You know, we thought he would tell us, right? He seemed to like us. He let us hang around. He said, serve people. For lunch? What? Serve people? What? Okay, and maybe he's a little spaced out, you know. How do you risk Kundalini? He said, feed people. What? It's just, we weren't qualified for the teaching. That's what it comes down to. We still thought we had to do something. It was about me. When I was going to kill myself, he said, don't think about yourself. Oh, it never occurred to me. He said, only Jesus died the real death. What? Because he never thought of himself. There was no planet of me in that being. It was all about kindness and compassion for others and transmission. So you do your practices and you just live your life. Unless you're a very obsessive, compulsive kind of person, practice will be not the only thing that you do. You have to go to work, you have to eat, you have to watch TV, you have to do all kinds of things. But the practice will change, will transform you from within, ripen us from within. We don't have to do it. But we do have to put the energy into some practice and remembering to look. That's all. We're not in the business of making a better me, a better, shinier me, which is what most of us, including me, are busy doing. One time I was in Allahabad at Dada Mukherjee's house. Dada was one of the great devotees of Maharaj. He had been a communist economics professor. In India, communism is not such a political thing, it's more like an economic thing. It wasn't like. And he was totally uninterested in spiritual things. And he had a group of friends he used to hang out with. One of them was a hunter, actually, which was really strange. But they used to hang out and talk and have tea and snacks. So one day, his wife and his aunt, who lived with them, were getting ready to go out. And Dada said, "Where are you going?" And they said, "Well, you know, we heard that there's this Baba who comes to the house across the street, and we've been waiting to hear that he'd come, and he's there, so we're going to see him." "Good, go." So they left, and just a few minutes later, they came back. And Dada says, "Why are you back so quickly?" So Dada's wife said, "Well, we went into the house, and it was like a mud, very poor person's house, a mud house, and it was dark inside. And we came in, and the Baba was sitting on a bed, and just as I was about to pranam and sit down, he said, 'Go, leave, ciao.' But I couldn't believe that he was really telling me to go, so I sat down. And a few seconds later, he looked at me and he called me by my name, Kamala. He said, 'Kamala, go home. Your husband's friends are waiting for their tea. Come tomorrow.' So I had to leave. So this piqued Dada's curiosity. So the next day, he and his wife go across the street. As they walk into the room, the Baba gets up, takes Dada's hand, and starts walking across the street, like basically pulling him back across the street towards his house, towards Dada's house. And as he's doing this, he says, "From now on, I'll be staying with you." Okay, you just went to the Stop and Shop, and you came out with a bag of groceries, and a homeless guy takes your hand and says, "From now on, I'll be staying with you"? I don't think so. But India is India. And so from that day on, Maharaji would come to their house whenever he was there. And as soon as he got there, the people from across the street came over, other people started arriving, people in cars started to come. The ladies prepared food and cut up the fruit and made chai for everybody, and it was a big party. And from then on, Maharaji stayed there. From now on, I'll be staying with you. So Dada wrote two beautiful books. One is called By His Grace, where he tells his whole story. And the other is called The Near and the Dear, in which Dada's hypothesis is that he didn't learn anything from Maharaji at all. He learned how to be a devotee from the old devotees who were already into it. And they were his near and dear ones. And Dada didn't actually write those books. He used to just tell us stories. We'd go to his house, and it just an endless flow of stories whenever we were there. So eventually we started recording them, and then somebody actually transcribed them, and then a book came out. The second book he wrote down. But the first one just happened. And another story about Dada is he was born in a little village outside of Calcutta. And he was a Brahmin boy, and he'd been initiated, given a sacred thread. And then when you give the sacred thread, you're also given the mantra to do. And his father initiated him and gave him the mantra. And then shortly after that, his father died. So even though he didn't believe in mantras or gods or goddesses or anything, in order to honor the memory of his father, he would always do that mantra when he took his bath. So then many years go by, and he's in college, and during the college break, he goes back home, and he's in Calcutta, and he bought a day ticket on the public transportation, which means you could go as many places as you could in one day for the same price. So one place he wanted to go, just as a tourist, was Sri Ramakrishna's temple in Dakshineshwar, which is just up the river from Calcutta. So he gets there, and it's the middle of the day. It's like 100 degrees in the summer. It's brutal. And there's nobody around. So he's just walking around, and then there's a big courtyard, and I think there's 9 little Shiva temples, just small little temples. Each one has a short little lingam in it. So in order to say that he did it, he was going to each one and bowing like this. And he gets about halfway down the line, and he turns around, and there's a bulky gentleman standing there in a blanket who says to him, "Come here, I'll give you a mantra." And Dada says, "I won't take your mantra." "Yes, you'll take my mantra." "No, I won't take your mantra." "You will, you'll do it." "I won't do it." "Yes, you'll do it." "No, I won't do it." "Okay, you'll do it when you take your bath after your Gayatri." How did he know? So, basically to get rid of the guy, he said, "Okay, I'll take your mantra." So the guy gave him this mantra. Dada turns around and pranams to the temple, and he turns around, and there's nobody there. Now, this happened when he was probably 19 years old. So maybe 20, 25 years later, or maybe even more, 30 years later, Maharaji and some other devotees are on a pilgrimage during the winter. They used to do that. They would go to Allahabad and use that as their meeting point. They would start there, go out, come back, go out, come back. So Dada had a very close friend who was very close with Maharaji, Siddhima's husband, Tularam. And they went to Dakshineshwar. And as they were walking around Dakshineshwar, Maharaji pointed, and he says to Tularam, "See, there's where I gave your Dada his mantra." Dada had absolutely no idea that that person who gave him the mantra all those years before was Maharaji. But he did the mantra every day because he said he would. And 25 years later, Maharaji says, "Okay, from now on, I'll be living with you." Nice deal, I think. I don't know. But we used to hear him do it when he was taking his bath. You could hear him mumbling stuff, and the mantras are meant to be mumbled. I think it was a Shiva mantra, but I'm not sure. Yeah, any questions or anything? This is our last shot. Okay, we'll use a microphone just to make it easier for me. Hey, Mama, what you doing? They won't rock. You don't have to stand up. Who said stand up? Who's the boss here? Sit the fuck down. Where's the microphone? You got the microphone? No? Not working? We're working on it. This is what you do when you don't know what you're doing. He's over there.
So I have a really heavy, deep question
Okay, well,
to bring everybody down.
good.
Now, I just want to know about your favorite places to travel as a group and perform. So just to change everything up. And experiences you've had on the road in different countries, anything you want to share. So that's...
I don't want to
really-
share anything.
This is back to Mark and Nina, I guess. I know I asked Mark this question, so...
You know, everywhere I go, it's exactly the same. That's all I can tell you. Everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants the same thing. It's quite extraordinary, really. Everybody wants the same thing, everywhere, every country, except Brazil. All they want to do is party. But it's really great. It's a good party. No, everywhere I go, it's the same. It's quite extraordinary, really. Everybody wants the same thing.
Have you been to Africa?
Have I been to Africa? South Africa only. I haven't been up to the rest. I want to go, especially North Africa. I want to really want to get up there, but I haven't been invited.
I'll invite you.
Huh? You gonna invite me? Okay, let's go. Hi.
Will you tell the story about your mom thinking Maharaj had your dad's nose again?
Yeah, her father's nose.
Yeah, will you tell that?
Will I
please?
tell that? Didn't I tell that the other day?
Oh, I missed it. Oh, now I'm like admitting that I skipped out early.
You weren't
Sorry.
here.
Good thing I already heard the story then.
Yeah,
I'm glad
okay.
everyone else heard it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's how he got her there. All of a sudden, she had this thought, like, I wonder if his nose is the same as my father's nose. Can you imagine? He was so sweet to her. Of course, my mother took everything wrong. For instance, he said to her, he's not your son, he's my son, which is a way of expressing love. He wasn't trying to take me away from her, but, but of course, then they had to explain, And then he said to her, will you give him money? And she said, well, I want him to work. Maharaj said, don't worry, he'll work. Yeah.
I have a question. So I would love a little 101 primer on kind of how Kirtan was originally performed or done in the temples where you were, kind of who did it, and then how, in what context it was performed. And then I'm actually curious about the melodies as well, and kind of what your experience was and how what you're doing is different from what was done there.
How's what I'm doing different?
Yeah, just how just want to understand the original context. And
Well,
so I can
we
explain
only
it.
started to sing because Maharaj liked it. We never thought of it as a spiritual practice. It was just some way to get his attention and spend time with him. And in that sense, nothing has changed. For me, I'm trying to get his attention again and again and again and again and again. In those days, at one point, when we were in Vrindavan, I think it was in 1971, the Hare Krishna people were just coming to Vrindavan for the first time from international outside country. And one of the guys who was hanging out with us at the time knew the head of one of the ISKCON temples. And so he invited with Maharaj's permission, he invited them to come and chant in the temple. So they all came, like 20, 25 of them. They had drums and shakers and, and they were dancing and everything. And Maharaj, he's just loving it, At one point he looked at me, he goes, I'm standing next to me, he said, Hare Krishna, Maha Mantra. Yeah, like this, So we used to just stand there and go, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, boring, but we had no instrument, we didn't know. So they sang for about 20 minutes or half an hour and they left. And Maharaj reaches into his dhoti and he pulls out a 50 rupee note and he gives it to me. He said, go buy a drum. And from that 50 rupees, here we are. So, yeah, we didn't have instruments or anything like that. We just stood around and sang, or sat down and sang to him. Also at the same time, he had Hare Krishna mantra being sung by professional kirtanwalas. Not professional, but full-time kirtanwalas. They would come up from Vrindavan. He would have them brought up, and there was a guy, a manager, and he would organize everything and bring them up, and then they would sing from 5 in the morning till about 11 at night, 10 at night every day, all day long in shifts. It was a couple of hours at a time, and then they would switch groups. And we would sing with them, but as soon as he came out, we would just go to hang out with him. Until, like I told you, one of them tried to come on to one of the Western women, and he sent them all home. And then we had to sing. It was torture. Absolute nails on a blackboard. It was the worst. Eternal damnation times 1,000. So horrible. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. It's just, you can't imagine it. Because first of all, we had one instruction, sing. For how long? The rest of our lives? I mean, anything could have been, But eventually he would say, okay, go home. And then we go home. But, you're sitting there and there's no way to change the channel. There's nothing else to do. And you can't leave. You got to keep singing. So your mind says, fuck it, I'm not paying attention. And it goes off and starts reliving your life again, Hare Krishna, and the whole time Hare Krishna's going on. That's the thing. So after like a couple of weeks, the mind just kind of gave up, stopped working, and just Hare Krishna was happening. But I went through hell for days and days and days until finally it just shifted. But that's why, if you want to know why your lives don't change much, it's because you sing for 10 minutes and then go away, We don't go through all those states of mind. We don't work through all those negative states of mind and positive states of mind, because you start, I was remembering my girlfriend back in America, Hare Krishna, Hare, and then I remember she broke up with me, Hare Krishna. But the Hare Krishna keeps going, you see, and that's the key. Whatever your mind is doing, whatever's going on inside your head, the mantra keeps going. And eventually, because the mantra comes from within, the mind the thoughts stop sticking to you. You can't make that happen. You can't push a button and you have to go through the horror of being stuck inside your head, which we are all the time, but we're not paying attention. Once you start to pay attention, that's when you go like, and then you notice what's going on in there. How we believe every story we tell ourselves about ourselves. We never doubt, I'm a piece of shit. I'm fucked up again. I'll never get it right. We believe everything we tell. Why? Just bad habits. That's all. Nothing more. None of it is true, but we believe it.
Krishna Das,
Yes.
I'm interested to know more about your experience as a pujari, a Durga pujari. And,
Yeah. All I was doing was giving out the prasad.
oh,
Yeah, I didn't do the worship step because I didn't know how. The regular pujari came over from the other temples and did that. But I distributed what they call the charanamrit, which is the water that they used for the to wash the Devi, the goddess. People would come, and they would have to take it from my hand. And they didn't like that. Some of them would go like, but Maharaj would be watching, so they go like, you know. And he did that on purpose, you know, to mess with their heads, you know. They had to take the charanamrit from me. We're not even qualified to be in the caste system. That's how low we are. And they had to take it from my hand. Oh, it was great. Because I would say the mantra. There's a mantra you say. I would say it very slowly. So much fun. And I would sit there all day and pretend to be a pujari, you know. And the temple is right opposite a wall, and in the wall there's a window, and that's the window to Maharaj's room. So every single day, I'd be sitting there, you know, just kind of daydreaming, you know, whatever. And I'd turn my head, and the window would close. He'd been looking at me. And every day I forgot. And I'd just be sitting there, and then my head would turn, window would close again. Every day he'd peek at me until my head turned. It was just insane. Every day. And then he'd come out and look at me and laugh. So. Yeah, no, I didn't know all the rituals. Yeah, I still don't know the rituals. But I know some of the mantras, and I do them sometimes.
Hello, KD.
Where are you?
Up here.
Oh, you're not allowed to ask questions.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for allowing me. I know that during the day or the weeks, you're surrounded by people who enjoy your music, call them fans, groupies, or the spiritual followers. And we all admire this, we all want your picture, we all want you to sign our CDs, all this. Comes at the end of the day, you go to your room by yourself. I assume so. Does it ever get, probably not spiritually, because you're probably always full, spiritual speaking, but in your mind, does it ever get lonely?
No. You know, there's that old country song, you know, how can I miss you if you won't go away? That's what I sing to him. No, I love being alone. I love being alone. Then I'm alone with him. Unless I'm watching serial killer movies. One or the other. It's either him or the serial killers.
Hari Om.
Same to you.
Krishna Das.
Hello, how are you?
Yes, welcome.
Good to see you.
Since I didn't have an opportunity, you were here 2019 last time.
Uh-huh.
And I just wanted to thank you publicly. You came to Baptist Church.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was a most incredible experience. I know many of you had joined from the ashram and those of you who have returned. And that experience really was extraordinary. He started with Jai Ram, Jai Ram in Baptist church. And I don't think you knew, but I was sitting right next to Pastor Paul, who was starting to get nervous. And I didn't tell you the story, but he turned to me, and his wife was sitting right next to you, and to him, and he said, "What is he saying? Because in Baptist church, we need to know what we are saying or singing." And I was caught a moment wondering, what am I going to say? Because it was meant to be an interfaith thing. So somehow God helped me to say, Jai Ram means victory to God. Ram is a name of God. So he's singing victory to God, victory to God. And he looked at me and he went, "Oh." And he turned to his wife and said something. And everything was okay. And then when you started singing Jesus on the main line, ask him what you want. And everybody stood up, starting with Pastor Paul, and danced along the aisle.
And the pastor said, "What I want is you to get out of here."
So anyway, thank you so very much for having been come out. You don't only chant, but you chant and uplift us. But you came to help this our struggle with the fossil fuel pipeline. You know, he uplifted the whole church, just lifted up off the ground. And I know that Pastor Paul and the whole community, Yogaville and Baptist, together and others, thank you so very much for how you serve. Thank you, Krishna Dasti.
Thank you.
That pipeline was canceled 2020.
Wonderful.
One of the first that canceled.
Yeah, I'm very holy. I just got a message from a dear friend of mine. Said, "I had a dream of you and got a message from you. It was, never trust a fart." That you'll remember, I'm sure. Your last thought, what was that? I got a message from Krishna Das. Anybody? Yeah,
Hi, Krishna Das.
a little closer. Thanks.
What is helping people, this is helping people die, people transitioning, about to leave their body, what is the one thing you would advise them just to fear not?
Well, there are people who really work with dying people all the time, and there's a lot of very good instructions about that.
I'm a hospice nurse, so I was just wondering what...
I'm sorry?
I'm a hospice nurse. I was just wondering...
Yeah. You know, one thing they say is if you know the person, remind them of all the good things that have happened to them in their lives. That's one thing they say is very useful. The more a person feels loved, the more easily they'll release themselves. A lot of times people have trouble letting go for lots of reasons, not just fear and stuff, but there's regrets and things they remember in their lives. But if you can help a person feel okay about themselves, it's really a very good thing. One of my dear friends left the body from kidney disease, you know. He put the headphones on, put my music on, and pulled the plug on the kidney machine. So hearing the name at that time, or anything that, any not just beautiful music, but something that has if not overt, a covert spiritual thing would be useful. Because what we take with us, they say, since I haven't died lately, is our state of mind. So if we're anxious and fearful and we go out with kind of discombobulated. So, but who knows, those are big moments. We'll see how it goes. Ram Dass was very ready to go. He was like a ripe fruit, just ready to fall. But the body itself has reactions. It can shake and all kinds of stuff, even though you might be fine inside the body. And when that last breath isn't coming in, it's very hard not to have a reaction. So, but it's usually pretty quick, that last moment. Although it might take a long time to get to that, which is, a lot of people suffer a lot on the way. There's an incredible book by a Tibetan Lama who I knew, who left the body recently. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Lama, beautiful man, Tibetan. And it's called Peaceful Death, Joyous Rebirth. It's really interesting reading. It's the story of in Tibet, they have these beings called Delogs, D-E-L-O-G, who are people, regular people, who die. And then they come back to life like 3 days later, And they're dead. They're not just partially gone, they're absolutely dead. And this Lama, there's all kinds of stories about these people. And what happened, they go before the Lord of Death. And he goes like, you're not supposed to be here yet. But since you're here, take a look around. And when you go back, tell people what's going on here, what this is about. And that's what happens. Like housewives, they're not just yogis and stuff, normal people. They'll die and they'll have this experience. Not everyone, but quite a few. And it happens in every culture. But in Tibet, they write this stuff down. They got this, this happened. It's really interesting. I'm not going to say anymore because you'll have your own experience about it, your own way of reading it and relating to it. But it was very powerful for me because, so one thing is, there are no secrets. I'll say that again. There's no secrets. We can fool ourselves. We can fool the people around us. We can keep secrets, but the universe knows everything. So that was a big one. I thought, wow, okay. And there's no judgment of good and bad. There's not like good and evil. There's actions that we've done that have been positive and helpful, and there's actions we've done that have been negative and hurtful. And there's a scale with white beads and black beads, depending on which way it's going. That has a lot to do with which direction you go. So this is from a book. It's not my personal experience, but this Lama was a really good Lama. He was telling the truth. Very interesting stuff. And just, the Tibetans have been dealing with this for many thousands of years, and the so-called Tibetan Book of the Dead, the real name of that book is the book of liberation in the in-between states. This is how to, if you haven't been liberated in your life, how to achieve liberation between births. And through hearing in the bardo, through hearing the teaching in the bardo. Very interesting stuff. And it's just like, this is not all there is, you know, this few years that we have inhabiting these old cars that keep breaking down. There's more, a lot more.
Thank you.
Yeah. The main thing is just be with the person, you know, and let them feel your presence, that you're there and you're not afraid, and you're with them, that they're not alone.
Hi. Couple of comment and there's a question.
Hold the mic a little closer, please.
A comment and there's a question.
Okay.
Somewhere at the end. So gratitude, I'm finding, is a magic sauce for me these days. To break my heart open in the hard places in a really good way. Being with you here now is just a magic button to do that in the fullness and with the big band and all the power. But I'm called to think about you and Ram Dass and Larry Brilliant and the crew, the adventurous crew, decades back. You were in India, you were struggling, flailing a bit. There were hundreds of thousands of us that were flailing back here in your sort of cohort. The ripple effect of that is not nothing. It's huge. One of the recipients of that is my friend Steve, a buddy of 58 years, who lived a life of service and seeking God. He and I were here together the last time you were, before the pandemic. And it was ecstatic, it was good. Fast forward, he's got Alzheimer's, and it's, I thought it was going to be okay. We were registered to come. I was going to bring him, take care of him. It was going to be good because he would sink into this and not be afraid and not worry about being confused. So, trial visit, it was obviously a terrible idea. It would have been not good for him, not good for me. He's anxious, he's confused, and it really makes me sad. I had the delusion, I guess, that all his years of meditation and practice and going to India and getting right would, in the end, see him through, that he would be able to fall back into peace despite the fact that his mind is gone. But it doesn't seem to be rolling out that way. So, to the question, does prayer help him? Can I help him through prayer? Can we help him, this man, through prayer? Thank you. Thank you.
My dad died from Alzheimer's. I spent a lot of time with him. That period where they're anxious usually goes away. And then after that, they don't have any self-awareness at all, and that's a good thing. We're the ones who are suffering, and they're okay. Sure, prayer, can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. But certainly holding a person in your heart and wishing them well and holding them inside of that love, that's a great thing, of course. It's not going to disappear the karmas they have to go through, but it might make it easier for them. Yeah, and doing practice and dedicating to them, that's also very helpful. And in fact, in some traditions, after every practice session that you do of any kind of practice, you offer the benefits of that practice for everyone in the world, all beings. They call it dedicating the merit, sharing the good vibes. And which is what we do when we chant at the end. I usually end with some little thing that yeah. I'm not sure where I was. I thought I was here, but I was talking about my dad when he first started to lose it. We were in a taxi together in the city, and we made plans for the next day. Yeah. And as he was getting out of the cab, I said, "So I'll see you at 2, okay?" And the panic in his eyes when he realized that he didn't have any idea what I was talking about. And that was a hard period. But that was not that long. That period kind of passed. So I used to go see him when I was going away because I didn't know if he recognized me when I came back. One time I was sitting there on the couch and he was in his chair doing what he did every day, which was watch reruns of Seinfeld all day long, the same show, pretty much. And all of a sudden he looked over at me. And he gets up out of the chair, and he comes and sits next to me on the couch, right next to me. And he looks at me and he goes, "What you're doing is so incredible. I can't believe what you're traveling around the world, singing with people. It's so wonderful. I'm so proud of you. It's so great." And I was like, like he's right there, I was like, "Okay, Dad," He's just going on, and then all of a sudden, back to the chair, back to Seinfeld. That was like the last time I saw him, that he was really there, And my daughter and I went to visit him. His wife put him in a assisted living home because she couldn't. She was getting destroyed, but trying to take care of him. She had an inflammation of the lining around the heart, just from all the stress. So my daughter and I went one morning, and then we were coming back, and to get home, we had to cross the bridge. And so I dropped her off at her house, and then I'm heading back to my house. By mistake, I went over the bridge again, which is on the way back to the hospital, to the place. My house was on the other direction, you know? And at that moment I thought, oh, maybe I should just go back. Nah, we'll go back later. I'll go home and rest, and then I'll pick up my daughter and go back in the afternoon. That was just when he was leaving the body. But it would have been harder for him to leave if I was there. That's happened a few times with friends of mine. A friend of mine's wife dying of cancer, brutally horrible time. Oh. And he puts her in hospice finally and goes back to the house to get some clothes for her. Boom, that's when she left. You know, what's good, what's bad, we don't know. What's better or worse. I had a friend who was going very deeply into Parkinson's, getting worse and worse. And then he would get these urinary tract infections, and they would drive him completely crazy, and they'd go to the hospital and get antibiotics, and then they'd send him home. So after a few of these, he comes home once, and just comes home from the hospital, cured from the infection, goes to sleep and has a heart attack and dies. He had undiagnosed heart disease. He'd been in the hospital 20 times. Nobody noticed. But the thing was, his father had been in bed for 30 years with Parkinson's. And that's what he was looking at. So the heart attack saved him from that. Was that a blessing or wasn't a blessing? Who knows, right? It's not our job to judge. From where we're sitting, we don't have the right perspective. It's best to try to let things be as they are and keep the love flowing as best we can. And like I was reading that thing about surrender. If you demand God to do it your way, it's not surrender. They're already taking care of it. It's being done the best way it can be done. And everybody's living out their karmas the best way they can. Some of it's not so much fun. And some of it's a lot of fun. Some of it's too much fun. My Indian father, Mr. Tuar, was a great yogi. I mean, a great yogi. A real yogi. I've been with Maharaj for 40 years. And he had 2 sons and a daughter, and one of the sons had 3 children. And they lived in Lucknow. And Mr. Tuar, my Indian father, was staying in Delhi. He'd been ill. And he'd been cured. He had Hep C, and this doctor created this new operation, microsurgery, and because when the Hep C, the blood was slipping into his esophagus, and it was pretty. But this guy did this operation and fixed him up. And so his son came to visit from Lucknow. And while they were sitting there, his son gets a phone call saying that his son had fallen from the roof of the house and cracked his skull open and was dead. So my father, I'll call him Baba, Baba said to his son, no, he's not dead, he's not dead. Just go back Everything will be okay. And in fact, he wasn't dead. He was in a coma. His head was cracked. His eyeballs had popped out of his head. They had to put everything back together. So Mr. Tuar used to do Japa all the time. He had a mala, and he would, many times when he would meditate, he would do Japa, or other times in the day, it'd be going on. But he had recently put the mala aside and stopped doing the outwardly doing that. So when his son leaves, he picked up his mala again, and he said, he listens to me when I do this. And he started doing Japa again. So the son gets back to Lucknow and finds out that his son is alive, and they've done an operation, and they put his head back together, and he's in a coma. So 3 days later, the boy comes out of the coma, and he's okay. At that point, one morning, Baba would get up at 3:30 in the morning or so and go to the bathroom, come back to bed, cross his legs, boom, gone, you know. So this day, he goes to the bathroom, and he stops outside the door, and Mrs. Tuar looks at him and says, "Are you okay? What's wrong? Should I come?" And he fell. He was stiff. He was in samadhi. And he fell, and he bashed his head on the wall. And he was unconscious and went into a coma for 3 days. And he comes out of the coma, and his daughter's sitting with him, and she says, "Are you okay?" And he said, "Perfectly all right." And he closed his eyes, boom, he's gone. And he traded his life, what was left of his life, for the boy's life. And the boy was a completely different person after that. He started going to temples. He started reading holy books. I mean, it was a different kid. He listens to me when I do this. These people, you know, come on. They look like human beings, but who are they? Yeah. What? Microphone, I'm sorry. I can't hear you. I'm deaf. Probably just going to say something like,
Tuari and Dada, are they the same or?
No. Dada Mukherjee was a Bengali gentleman, school teacher, professor. And Tuar was from the hills. He lived up in the mountains, and he was the headmaster of a very prestigious school. First he was a teacher, then became the headmaster. He was completely in the world, but not. Yeah. At one point early on, he would come home from work and he would do his puja, and then he would go into samadhi. And everybody, the family was waiting to eat dinner, but they couldn't eat until he came back. And sometimes he'd be gone for hours and hours. So Mrs. Tuar went to Maharaj and complained. And he told her a way to bring him out of samadhi. And he used to be so pissed off when he came back. She'd have to reach in his mouth with a spoon and bring his tongue down, and she broke all his teeth. It was just crazy. But they had to eat. He was gone, not coming back. His idea of a hot night was a long, like 12 hours of puja. You know, one Shivaratri, he was a devotee of Shiva, basically. See, Hanuman is actually a form of Shiva, a manifestation of Shiva. And Maharaji mostly was seen as Hanuman, but the old devotees, the ones who've been around a lot, they saw him as Shiva himself. And Tuar used to do these Shiva pujas. And on Shivaratri, they do 4 3-hour pujas in a row. So one year I was there with a friend, another Westerner, And we were staying at the hotel down the hill, and we walked up to the top of the hill to where Tuar was living. And I was determined that I'm going to stay up all night. I'm not going to fall asleep. I'm not going to lay down. I'm going to stay up for the whole puja. And so all night long I'm getting up, running outside into the cold, taking breaths of air, you know. My friend, after a couple of hours, he laid down and went to sleep, which was fine with Tuar. You sleep, do whatever you want, it doesn't matter. You'll get it. He said it'll seep in the other way. So, but I was determined, right? And I was up all night. Finally, the puja's over, you know. And Tuar comes with the prasad from the puja. And he gives my friend one apple. And he says, I'm giving you the one. You know, the one. And I went, wow, what's he going to give me? I was up all night. This guy was asleep. Right? And he gave me 5 things. He said, I'm giving you the 5 elements, essentially the world. And I went, you're giving me the world. He got the one, and he slept all night, and I was up all night, you're giving me the world? This is inside. My brain started spinning. So then we went down the hill to go to sleep, but my mind was going 50 billion miles an hour. Son of a bitch, give me the fucking world and give this guy the one. And I tried to lay down. I was like 3 feet off the bed, you know. Finally, and the way to get up to the place, it's a very steep mountain. You have to go this way, then this way, then this way, this way. It takes about a half an hour to walk up. After like an hour of levitating over the bed, I got my clothes on and I ran straight up the mountain. And I'm right at his door, and I'm just about to bang on the door, and it opens. And he smiles at me. He says, come in. He pets me on the head. Son of a bitch did it on purpose, you know? God, I hate these people. He was something. And we'd be driving around, and there'd be some little temple, and we'd have to stop the car, get off, and get into the temple. There'd be like a foot of water with all kinds of creepy crawlies, and he's right down into it. And I'm like, fucking hey, you know. But what are you going to do, you know? Once we were in Chitrakoot, which is a Ram place, beautiful place for Ram, and on Shivratri. And so Mr. and Mrs. Tuar, they were up all night doing puja. And he had before Maharaji, he also had another guru who taught him all the pujas. And his instructions to Tuar were that when he did puja, he had to do it at the top of his lungs, like screaming, essentially. So he'd be like, for 12 hours, right, you know? And so this is what happened in Chitrakoot, in this ashram where we were staying. In the morning, when we came out of the room, all the Babas were standing outside the door like this. They had never heard anything like this. You know, they do their pujas so they can eat, you know. Namah Shivaya, give me some food, you know. But they had never heard anything like that. They were just like this, you know. And he was a householder, and they were just like, oh, like that. Big time, really big time. He came to America a few times, a couple of times with his wife. Back earlier on, we'd be walking down the street with him, you know, and then we look around, and we're halfway down the block. He's standing there like this, in samadhi, stiff as a board, like, you know. We have to go back, and, you know. We couldn't get down. It took us 3 weeks to get down 1 block with him. Another time, he had bursitis, you know, from being in samadhi so many hours. He had bursitis in his shoulder. So he wanted to see an acupuncturist. So I had a Chinese acupuncturist I went to see down in Chinatown, but he had moved his office. He wanted to be more available to the people, so he moved his office, wanted to be more centrally located. So he moved his office to 42nd Street in New York City in the 80s, right? I don't know if you've been there, but... So we drove in from my home. We parked over by 8th Avenue, and the office was between 6th and 7th. So we're walking along 42nd Street. People are coming up to us, you know, you want some crack, some smack, what do you want? The porn theaters, everything like, you know, it's like with these two little Indian people. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, Krishna, you fucked up. How could you bring these people here? They must think you're crazy. This is terrible. And then Mrs. Tuar said something to Mr. Tuar in Hindi. And I said, Baba, what did she say? Figuring she said, get me out of here, right? And I said, what did she say? He said, she said, this place is like heaven. I said, what? What do you mean? What? And he looked at me like I was crazy. Well, she always looked at me that way. He said, my boy. He said, heaven is a place you go to get the things you want. This is how they saw it. They weren't bothered by it, not at all. For those people, it was heaven. I've been to heaven. Unbelievable. So much. She was amazing. Mrs. Tuar was just extraordinary. Mr. Tuar was dying of tuberculosis, and Maharaj took it away. But when he took it away, he said, from now on, you have to be fruitarian, falahari. So from that point on, he never ate grains again. In India, buckwheat is considered fruit, actually, because of the way it grows. So that was the only heavy thing that they ate. And Mrs. Tuar, who had diabetes, because she's a good Indian wife, followed the same diet as he did. As a result, she couldn't take insulin, so her blood sugar was like, and she developed terrible neuropathy. I mean, she couldn't feel her fingers. She couldn't feel when she had to pee. Her feet, you know, pain and everything. And one time she was just lying down, like writhing in agony, you know, and I just said, Ma, can I do it? Are you okay? And she just looked at me. She said, machine broken, inside okay. And she meant it. Inside okay. Machine was broken, no problem. Inside okay. Living with this family, I don't say it was a functional family. Who knew there was such a thing? They would yell at each other, they would scream, they would fight, but nobody was afraid that anybody would throw them out of their heart. So they were free to be themselves and be just as stupid as they wanted to be. And the kids were pretty stupid at times. But it took me a little while to get with the program, you know. But Tuar, he was always jabbing me. He was always jabbing me, trying to piss me off. And he'd jab me, he'd do something, he'd go, you will fire upon me now? He wanted, you know, and he would piss me off. We'd be like nose to nose, and I'd be screaming at him, and he'd be yelling at me, and we'd look in each other's eyes like, wow, you can do this? It was amazing. Just amazing. He would look at me and say, my boy, is there something wrong with your brain? You know? Yeah.
Hi.
Where are you? Oh.
Yesterday, it was an extraordinary afternoon, and you shared a lot of your own path and difficulties. And it was encouraging because on the topic of burning off one's karma, you don't, so just, that's a sidebar and a comment at the same time. I live near ISKCON Temple. 12 years ago I went, no one would come with me, no one was interested. So on New Year's Eve I thought, I'll go, I've been going to the blues, hear some blues music. I'll stop on the way there. If I don't like it, I can leave because I have a place to go. And I never left because when I saw how the people treated each other, and little things, just when an old person would come up for a seat, a young person would get up. They didn't have to ask, they got up with this older. And it doesn't matter what philosophy they had, they say everyone's welcome. I never saw, except in Israel for a little while when I lived there. I couldn't believe how much love and respect they had for, and we're talking 90, 100-year-olds, and I was so struck I couldn't leave the temple. And I'd heard your chanting without seeing your face. It was at a yoga. I thought you were this old Indian going, "Rrr." I was like, I wanted to go to the temple to hear this kind of chanting. And this is where would I go? You'd probably go to ISKCON. I said, okay. And let's just say a lot, not exactly your path, but a lot of stuff with my mind, hearing Hare Krishna over and over. Didn't even like that in the beginning. And it took like 12 years. But I couldn't do this path without having to go to the temple. And so I'm admitting my frailty. I can't do it in my house by myself. I can't do it. And so being stuck in the hospital, getting COVID, getting open heart, I go to the temple now and I go, I'm blessed that I have a place to go. And that I can sing and I don't get bored of it now. I like it. And 8 hours goes by and I'm like, it's done. So it took a long time to get there. And so I just want to, I'm very grateful to the Hindus, the Indian, the culture, having that temple there, because everyone is welcome. And it was a dive place, the old one, sorry, but it was just an old room and there was now there's a new temple, but it didn't matter where I was. I was in heaven hearing this chanting. And they said, we have this American girl here, she doesn't really fit in, but she's so welcome, we love having you. Not like I'm a pet, but they're like, you love this so much. And they see that, you can't bullshit them, they know. And I just feel so grateful. And so my question is, 13 years ago, or 2011, when we came here, you said, just try and be a good person, try and be nice. You see someone emptying the trash, smile. Don't walk away like you're better, just little things. And so I started doing little things like that to kind of reprogram in my brain, but it took quite a long time. And I guess my second question, besides being so grateful at ISKCON, is having that temple near me and the beautiful chanting there is amazing. If you just keep having more shit come, there's burning off karma, and the book you were talking to. I forgot half my question. Joyous death. What was joyous
peaceful death.
Peaceful
joyous
death. Yeah.
Rebirth.
So let's say you thought I thought I was going to die a few times. I wasn't happy how it was going to end. I was better. But let's say I have an intention, okay, I have karma, let's look at that. Maybe I was a hitman, did something so bad that I'm going to have my whole wakeful life, more shit will just keep coming. So let's just say I can't predict it, I can't stop it, but you've kind of had enough, like you need a little break every now and then. Like, can you speak to burning karma if you think you've probably done some bad stuff before? And, okay, now it's time the universe doesn't forget. If you can say anything or add any color. I know you're not the answer man, but I hallucinate you kind of have a lot of grace. I know, I think you have a lot of grace. I do. I really do believe that. But
only a fully enlightened being can understand all the workings of karma. It's not like you push a button, you do one bad thing, and somebody's going to beat you up the next day. Karma is the atmosphere you live in. It's the atmosphere you create with your mind. It's your actions, your beliefs. Everything we are is a result of our karmas. Everything we're going to be is a result of this moment and how we live in it. which is why karma is actually freedom. It's not bondage and it's not fate that can't be changed. It's the path to freedom because you can make a decision right now to do a good thing, or at least not to do something that's hurtful. So that's a good seed that you just planted. We're planting seeds all the time. And Maharaj used to say, it's better to love everyone than to try to figure it out. And I think that's a good advice.
Like everyone or love everyone?
Love everyone.
Not like them necessarily.
So it's 11:47. And I have to go. Thank you so much for hanging out this couple of 3 days. And if you have any questions, find the answers. Thank you, thank you. And don't come up to see me. Take care.
Quickly. Well, we did it. Yeah. Thank you all so much. You know, Yogaville would not be here if it wasn't for you. Katie wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So thank you so much for choosing this ashram. Of course, Krishna Das, thank you for coming. Yeah, thank you. And of course, Katie is great, but the band really adds it all. So let me see if I can find them all. Nina, thank you. Noah, thank you, brother. Let's see, we have Kevin in the back. We cannot forget about Kevin. Yeah. Where is everyone? Mark, Arjun, Genevieve, of course.
Arjun, come up here for a second.
You have to show yourself, Arjun. And Bubby is probably packing the car, yeah? Yeah. Where is Muji Baba? Yeah. We'll find Bubby. Maybe give that to Katie, and Katie will get it to Bubby. Katie, you can deliver this to Bubby, yes. It's a big surprise. Yeah. Well, again, thank you all for coming to chant the holy names. This ashram, the vibration, it's going to hold us all the way until next year. So please enjoy. I mean, we're ending just before 12. There's plenty of options. You can meditate. If you're still wanting to chant, I think there's Mahamantra chanting at Kailash, if you'd like to enjoy that. Lunch will be at 12:45. Please check out of your room by 2, and we will be cleaning for the next 2 weeks. Yeah? Again, thank you so much. It's my honor to be here with you and to serve in this way. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's going to get pretty congested, but if you would like to drop some things by the closet, you certainly can. And I would be remiss without thanking all of these amazing staff. They're all in the back. Oh, yes. Yes, these staff are amazing. Literally, we could not do it without them. The kitchen, the housekeeping, can you believe it? Yeah. So yeah, as you see these beautiful sadhaks that are all over, please thank them for everything they've done. Our beautiful AV team who's been working for weeks and weeks. Alejandro and Roy. Yeah, I could keep doing thank yous for days, but ultimately, thank you for coming. We'll see you next year, okay? Hari Om Tat Sat. Oh, and if you would like to fill out evals, they're in the back table.
Lotus Guest House, do we leave the key in the room or where do we put our key?